Well, good morning, YouTube. All right, I am over in Hayesville, North Carolina at the moment, going to the post office. We got a package. This is from the Bearded Guy Jeff Lawless. I'm not going to open it right now, though, because he asked that Katie record me opening it. So we'll wait till we get back to the house. All right, guys, so I am running around in the Mini Coupe this afternoon. It's just a little bit afternoon. Spent most of the morning getting packages ready to ship out, going through a bunch of emails and whatnot. I've got work to do on Goliath today, but I just got to get this stuff done first, because if I don't do it first, it won't get done, because once I start working, I don't stop. Well, guys, just a whole bunch of running around today. Now I'm over the Lowe's in Murphy. Had to get some zip ties because we were running low in Goliath, and was actually shopping around for a new refrigerator for Goliath. The one we have in there is very small, and with Mama S coming with us on the next trip, we figured we need a little bit more capacity, and it was in the plans for Katie and I anyways. We wanted to buy a larger refrigerator. I just had to make some modifications to make it all fit. Well, guys, today has just gotten away from me. You know, it's almost 6 o'clock in the evening, and I haven't accomplished a lot of the things that I wanted to do today. One thing that you did not see that I was doing, because I didn't record any of it, was working on this transmission on the Mini Cooper. So the Mini Cooper has a pretty bad transmission leak, and it's progressively gotten worse, and it's very difficult to fill. So one of the things I was doing today is I took the fill plug out of it and tried to find an adapter. Hold on, green light. So anyway, the fill plug on the transmission is in a spot where the easiest way to fill it is from underneath the car. And it's leaking at a rate that I have to constantly top it off. And that's just not convenient when it's underneath the car like that. So what I did this time is I took the drain plug out of it, and I was trying to find a fitting that would thread into the fill port. I said drain plug, didn't I? I meant fill plug. That I could put a hose barb on and route a hose up to make it more accessible to add oil when I need to. This way I can just grab the hose at the top, pour some oil into it, and I can see the level in the transmission, or at least when it's full anyways. Once it drops, I won't be able to see it. But this car tells me when it's low. When the oil level drops enough, it won't stay in fifth gear anymore. You'll be cruising down the road and it will just jump out into neutral. So I wasn't able to get the fittings exactly the way I wanted them, but I did come up with a system that gives me that access to the hose at the top, so I don't have to jack the car up. I don't have to reach down into an area that's really hot if the car's been run already, and I can add oil to it. And I hate to admit it, and it's very seldom you hear me use this product, but I threw some Lucas in there. Now, the only reason I use Lucas in this particular application is because Lucas makes a product that is specifically designed to stop leaks, and Amsoil does not. Amsoil does not make products to band-aid situations, because the right way to fix it would be to fix the leak. However, in this particular situation, the transmission housing is cracked, and until I find a new transmission, I can't properly repair the problem. So I threw in some of that Lucas transmission stop leak stuff. It is super, super thick, and it took forever to fill it back up with that. I think I put 2 bottles of it. I almost said quarts, but their bottles aren't true quarts. They're only 24 ounces. Hang on, got to shift. So in this particular situation, the Lucas was the best option for me to use. And hopefully it'll work. Anyway, I spent about 4 hours working on that, which ate up a big part of my day. And then I went and dropped off all the love jugs that were purchased on the website yesterday at the mailroom today. And then I actually went to Lowe's and tried to size that refrigerator. Now I'm on my way to Goliath, and I'm hoping I can actually get something done before I go home and have dinner. So as I pull into the yard here, you'll see, maybe, those of you that pay attention, I got this stuff moved around. So definitely looks different. Now, I know you guys saw the other day when I moved the Kenworth, but the other two trailers were still sitting here. That the white dump truck, that's when you see the nose of it right there, it was still out back. That was an effort to move, is the easiest way I can say it. It's one of the reasons I didn't film. It was so involved that picking up my phone to video record was the last thing on my mind. So you can see the tire marks in the ground right there. This is where the dump truck was sitting before. So if you guys recall, a few months back, I did a will it start video on that dump truck because it's been sitting here for a number of years. So, and it worked. We got it running that day, and I was very happy with the way it ran. So it's running pretty good. The problem is I couldn't move it that day because the brakes were locked up on it, and I thought it was just the emergency brake, but it wasn't. So it also had a flat front tire that was off the bead, so I had to jack the truck up and use my portable blaster tank to force some air into it. And I still could only put about 20 or 30 pounds in it because there was a sidewall protrusion where the inner liner was starting to bubble out, and I didn't want to just blow it up. So I just put enough air in it to get it to roll. But the brakes locked up, and I spent hours trying to free up the brakes, beating on stuff with a hammer, pry bars, nothing would work. What I finally resulted in is I locked the Excursion into 4-wheel drive, low range, hooked chains to it, threw Gabriel in the driver's seat with it running, so him giving it throttle, me pulling it with the Excursion. We finally got it to move, but there was so much resistance on it to get the truck there. It was quite the workout for the Excursion. You can even still see the evidence here of where I had all 4 tires on the Excursion spinning in the gravel at one point before we got it moving. Anyway, so that was quite the task. But then we had all these other implements like this rake over here. There it is. There was another one of those big bins that I moved the other day with the trailer that Gabriel and I moved over there. There it is. So yeah, it was just a lot of work, and we were hot and sweaty and just didn't pick up my phone to record anything. But then I got lucky, and just before I got all that completed, one of the locals came by, and he parks his rig here when he comes home sometimes. And actually, he usually just parks his reefer trailer here because he can get the tractor into his house, just not the trailer. So I just happened to bump into Junior, and I said, hey, would you mind using your tractor to move these trailers when I'm ready? And he said, sure. So that was a lifesaver there, or so I thought. So once Gabe and I had all of the implements and the garbage and the concrete blocks and the broken pallets and everything out of the way, I called Junior. He met me here, and we hooked up to the Winn-Dixie trailer, this one right here first. Well, I don't know if you guys can see it, but I didn't notice until we tried to hook it up, which I should have noticed, but I didn't actually look. The airlines are severed on it. So if you look right there, airlines are just hanging down, severed there, severed there. So yeah, there's 3 open ends. So without air, wheels don't roll. So I searched every single trailer here to try to find the cage bolts so I can cage the brakes. And for those of you that know, air brake systems, when you supply air to the trailer, it releases the parking brake, which is spring powered. The air pressure overpowers the spring and releases the brakes. If you don't have air pressure, you can put this bolt in there and tighten it down, and it will overcome that spring to release the brakes. Anyway, out of the 10 trailers that are on this property, I found one that actually had cage bolts in it. Now, they're supposed to stay in the brake chamber, so you always have them. But out of 10 trailers, one trailer had all 4 cage bolts. So I stole those, put them in there, and we were able to move it. So now it was just time to move the Mack dump trailer right there. And that should have been easy because all the hoses were intact. We hooked up to it, and sure enough, the brakes released. But the problem is, that trailer does not have a hand crank for the landing gear. It's got pins and sliding landing gear. And the problem was, even with his truck hooked up to it and his airbags raised all the way up, it wasn't taking the weight off of them. I'm assuming that that trailer was put where it was by the Kenworth, which does have a higher ride height than Junior's truck did, because got a really tall suspension on this truck, and we got 24.5 11R tires on it, so it just sits taller. And if we would have been able to use the Kenworth, it would have probably worked just fine. But Junior's Freightliner just sat too low. So I literally had to drive the pins out with a hammer, which took a good while because there was quite a bit of pressure on them. And then we could raise them up and move the trailer. And it was a pain in the butt, but we got it done. So guys, that is done. Now all I got to do is focus on projects, getting Goliath ready to roll, because we've got 4 more days. Today is Thursday, the 29th, 30th? I don't even know what day. It's Thursday. And we're leaving Monday evening. Well, some of the projects that I wanted to get done this week in Goliath weren't really big projects, but very few of them have gotten done because this whole having to move everything around the yard, it actually took a lot of time and a lot of energy to do that. But here's some of the other things that I've got to get done. Bought a new kitchen faucet because ours is all cattywampus and sprays weird. So got to install that, which shouldn't take too long. I've also got an outlet in the living room of Goliath that isn't working. So I bought some testers so I can try to trace the wires, because all the breakers are on. All the breakers have power, but that outlet does not. And it's been like that ever since we got Goliath. I've just never had a chance to figure it out. We just haven't used that outlet. But when the plan was to put the new couch in there that we got from Andre and Harry so that Mama S has a comfortable place to sleep, I wanted to switch the TV from one wall to the other wall. And to do that, I want this outlet to work so I could plug the TV into it. However, we did get the couch in there, and I'll show you that in a minute. But it didn't fit where I wanted it to. It would have blocked off the walkway from the living room to the kitchen. So I left the couch on the same wall that the old couch was on. So I'm not going to move the TV now. So truth is, fixing this outlet isn't a high priority, but if I get time to fix it, I still want it fixed. We also have to replace the water pump in Goliath. So truth is, I don't remember if I mentioned it or not, but when we were on our way home from Laconia, in the midst of Goliath breaking down on us after leaving Carlisle and having to fix that tractor trailer protection valve, the water pump started acting up. So RV water pumps are these little 12-volt pumps, and actually our pump works fine, but if you look in the bottom, there's an electronic switch. That switch detects the line pressure. When the water pressure gets to the predetermined setting, which I believe in this pump is about 55 psi, it cuts the circuit or opens the circuit so that no more voltage flows through to the actual pump motor, so the pump will shut off. And then when you open a faucet and the pressure drops, the switch reactivates and allows voltage to flow through the motor, pumping water. So the last day that we were in Laconia and on our way home, that switch just started acting up. There were times we'd shut the water off and the pump would not stop running. And then there were other times we turned the water on, or the faucet on, I should say, and the water wouldn't start pumping. So the switch was being intermediate. Now there is a main control switch where I can turn the whole water pump system off if I want to. So what I ended up doing was bypassing the switch on the pump with a fork and then just using the main switch, but then we'd have to turn it on, do what we needed to do, and then turn it off immediately. Otherwise the pump would just sit there and continuously run, and that's obviously not good for it either over lengths of time. All right, so I know a lot of people don't get to see the view on the inside of Goliath, but here's the TV, and then here is the new couch. And I wanted to put the couch over here on this wall, which is where the couch was when we bought Goliath. However, and the reason I want it here is because you got the end table there and an end table here. Over here, there's no place to like set your drinks or anything. But with the outlet not working is why I put the TV here, and then I just switched the couch. But this couch is relatively wide from here to here. And if I put it on this wall, it was coming out into this opening. See, there's only this much room right here, and it was coming out to here. So walking through here, you would literally trip over the edge of the couch. And right here in this compartment, you can see where I used the fork to bypass the switch. So, yeah, jerry-rigging at its finest, but that's what had to be done. And there's the old pump that we're going to replace. Now, we really don't like how that old pump is just laying there on the floor. And believe it or not, it's been like that for years. That's the way it was when Goliath became part of the family. And I've always intended on mounting it. So we have to disconnect it and put a new one in anyways. I'm gonna go ahead and mount it to the wall. And this pump actually came with a pre-filter that we're going to install. That way, if any debris does get into the water tank, hopefully the pre-filter will catch it. I mean, it's not a fine filter, but it'll catch any large chunks of stuff. So I seriously doubt I'm gonna get all of my projects done, because now, like I said, it's about 6:30 in the evening. But I'm going to start with that water pump because there's no sense in replacing the faucet if I can't test it. And I can't test it until I have a working water pump. So I'm going to prioritize the water pump, going to get it mounted. And because I'm changing the location, there's a possibility I may have to run back out to Lowe's and get some longer hoses and stuff for it. All right, guys, and before installing the water pump, I decided to add this, Delphi style plug to the end of it. It's watertight, and I went ahead and harnessed this all up. This was just the red and black wire leading off. I had a couple of these plugs laying around, and a couple of the terminals. I have the mate for it right here, so I'll wire this to the other end in there. That way, once I get it mounted, it'll just be plug and play as far as the electrical goes. Now, this should go relatively easy. The hardest part about the whole thing is that it is at floor level, so I literally have to lay on my belly and crawl into this hole in order to fix this. Now, before I start, I closed off the supply to the pump, and then I turned the pump on and opened the faucet to relieve any pressure that was in it and remove what water was in the pump itself. So we'll hopefully make as little mess as possible when we disconnect these lines. All right, guys, and there we go. All up and running, a little bit neater than it was. See how there it just shut off. Now, it took me a while. Because I messed with stuff, I caused a bunch of intake leaks, basically vacuum leaks. So it wasn't drawing water at first, but I think we've got it all fixed now. Yeah, so it's kicking on and off like it's supposed to. And I've still got some air in the line, but we've got water at the sink. It's actually flowing a lot better than the old pump was, believe it or not. You can see our crazy spray pattern here in the sink. It's just kind of loose and wiggly. So we're gonna replace this faucet too. It looks like, looking under the sink, we have standard fittings, so this should be a relatively easy swap. My guys, only about 5 minutes, and the old one's out. And there we go, the new faucet. Much better spray pattern. And better pressure. Very nice, very nice. Now, obviously, I've got the water pressure turned back on, and I've got a paper towel sitting down there. Let it sit there for 10 or 15 minutes. That way I can see if any drips come from any of the fittings. Well, guys, as you can see, I got it all done before dark. I mean, it's almost dark, but it's close, but man, the skies are just beautiful tonight. Absolutely beautiful, and it's starting to get a little bit nice out. It was hot today. It was very hot today in the sun, but now it's getting pretty nice. But I think that's going to be it for these projects. I've double checked and triple checked. Neither the pump nor the faucet is leaking. Everything is working as it should. Now I've got a big mess to clean up. Got to put away all my tools, clean up all the dirty paper towels and stuff, and cleaning up the water spills and all my messes, and then I'm going to head home. All right, guys, I'm back at the house, and remember earlier today, I stopped by the post office and I got this package from Jeff Lawless, and he asked that Katie record me as we open it, so we're gonna get ready to do that in just a moment. But if you guys don't know who Jeff is, Katie and I had the pleasure of meeting him last year in Myrtle Beach. And his wife, Mrs. Bearded Guy. Really good people, really nice. It was really good just kind of hanging out with them, and we stayed in touch ever since. But Jeff also has kind of a startup YouTube channel he's been working on for about a year now called the Bearded Guy Jeff Lawless. He does a lot of barbecuing type stuff and model car stuff, and he's really good at that. If that sounds like something you guys might be interested in, go give his channel a look-see, and if you like it, subscribe to it, and let's see if we can't get him moving a little bit. You know, at one point in time, I was a startup and had no idea what I was doing, and it took support from people like you to help me grow. So I'd like to share that with him as well. So if you guys would like, go check him out, and if you like it, watch him more often. All right, guys, now, when Jeff told me he was sending me a package, I had a feeling I knew what it was, and my plan was to write that down on a piece of paper before opening it to see if I was right. That way, I guess, to show you on the piece of paper what I thought ahead of time. But now that I'm seeing the box, it's probably not what I was thinking it was, so we're not going to bother with that. And if it is, I'll be very surprised. But let's check out what this is. It's poppy packing.
Poppy packing. Woohoo, poppy packing.
Oh, this is actually really, really sweet and thoughtful, Jeff. Gonna make me cry, man.
Oh, thank you so much. That is the sweetest thing
Jeff,
ever.
Damn it, you get me crying on camera? It really touches my heart, Jeff. I appreciate it.
Oh, that's the most beautiful thing ever.
Jeannie D, June 20th, 22. That is just adorable.
Oh, I love that. That is perfect.
We'll put this somewhere right next to the little urn with her ashes as soon as we correct the spelling. And I never told you guys, but when we had her cremated, you know, of course, they give you the little urn. They misspelled her name. They spelled it Jitter. And that's a little heartbreaking, too. It's kind of funny, but it's not funny. So hopefully we'll get that fixed, and I'll put this right up there with it. But thank you, Jeff. I really,
gosh, that's
really
amazing. Oh, that is wonderful.
Guys, please go check out his channel. You see how thoughtful of a guy he is?
I love that.
Just awesome.
That is our Jexaroo.
All right, guys. That's going to be it for tonight. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. And until the next time I see you, keep those engines running.